How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Beginner Racer series. Today, we're going to start lesson 2, where we're going to cover the information that you're going to want to look up in the coming weeks to the event, what's going to take place on the days of the event so you know what to do while you're there. And then we're going to cover our flags, and so you know the meanings of all of them, the different kind of flags that there are. And then we're also going to cover your starting procedures. So when we get into that, we'll go more into depth so you understand what you need to do when you start the racing. But before we get into that, let's do a little recap on what the last video was about, and then we'll begin moving forward. So for those of you that are finding this video first, you might want to check out the first lesson into the series, and that's where we cover the types of skis and classes that are available that are excellent entry skis, your promoters and where you can find them, and the safety equipment that you might want to use when it comes to racing. So now that we're ready to move on here, we're going to get into the coming weeks before the race event. Now we're about a few weeks out from the race event. First thing you're going to want to need to do is look on the promoter's website or social media, see if they've published any kind of parking information, because that's going to be huge. Some events are limited on their parking and they can only do so much about it, so they put out a structured parking setup to accommodate everybody to the best of their abilities. So always keep an eye out for that. 2 is a promoter will usually always publish their schedule for the event weekend, roughly 1 to 2 weeks ahead of the event, so people know how to plan when they're going to be racing, about the time of the day, and all of that. Now, it's also wise to get your registration done online ahead of the race weekend as well. Kind of eases the headache that you have to deal with when you get there, because so many people, they prefer the online registration because it's done. They don't have to worry about the hassle when they get there. Some people just, they need the face-to-face. They prefer to, do the exchange of information and cash in hand. So it really all depends. But online registration does help a lot when you're coming up to race weekend. So now that we kind of covered there, let's talk about your arrival on the beach. So you get there, you know where you're parking, you know the schedule for the weekend, you have your registration paid for, you've checked in, you got all that said and done. The best thing you probably gonna want to do is take your pop-up and go mark your spot on the beach, because the beaches, they do fill up quick and the best spots are gone in an instant. Just a little bit of advice if you want to make sure you get a decent spot at least while you're on the beach. Now let's get into our flags. There's going to be a total of 7 flags that are pretty much going to dictate everything that happens on the water. Now, all of these flags are of equal importance, and there are several meanings, not just with the base colors, but there are a couple of combinations of colors that you should be aware of when it comes to racing. Now, you need to keep in mind the tower, the scoring tower, that is your primary base of communication from the watercross staff to the racers, and that's to include warnings, cautions on the course that you might not be aware of, incidences that have brought the race to a stop, so those are red flags, the end of the race. There's just so many different things that the flags can mean. So now we're going to get into those so you can understand everything that the tower is ever going to tell you while you're racing. So now we're going to talk about our flags. And like I said, there's 7 of them. So let's get into the flags, the colors, and their meanings, as well as the couple combinations that there are. So to start us off, just like the start of the race, you have your green flag. Now, um, it comes down to starts what exactly the green flag is utilized for. So when I say that, there are two primary different kind of starts in racing. There's what's known as a band start and a green flag start. Now, we'll get into the bands and starting and all that a little bit later, but just know that there is a difference. A green flag start is when this flag flies, that's when the race starts, versus a band start, which you start via the dictation of when a band snaps. So we'll get into that one when we get into our starts. Now, the next flag that we have here is our yellow flag. And just like in all other types of racing, this signifies caution, that there's a caution on the course somewhere. Now, in addition to the tower having these, all of the course marshals on the water also carry a yellow flag, because obviously the tower can't be seen from everywhere on the water very easily. So the course marshals will use this yellow flag, well, not this one, but a smaller one, easy to see when you're on the water though, to navigate cautions that happen while you are on the water. And it can happen for a number of reasons. A racer came off their boat, there might have been a boat died, they're having trouble moving it, they can't get it started again. There's several reasons why a yellow flag can come out, but that's just a couple of reasons right there and what the yellow flag is for. So now let's get into our red flag. Red flags. It's probably my favorite flag right here. And just like the tower, in addition to course marshals also carry a red flag. So the red flags are to indicate a few things. Essentially, that the race needs to come to a stop. And depending on what happens during the race, there's a couple things. So essentially, a red flag will be used for jump starts or failure to hold your line, or if a very pertinent buoy comes off that's very important for the course, or if there's an injury, we'll want to stop the race, get everybody off of the water so that we can do what we need to, or get anybody lined back up onto the lines, instruct whoever needs to be penalized or anything like that. So that is your red flag. That is what we use that for. Now, in a situation where injury happens, we're over halfway of the race, or like I stated, a pivotal buoy of the course comes off. Now, there's no safe way to keep the course in progress or to do anything like that. So in a situation like that, what flaggers will tend to do is they will take the red flag and the checkered flag, and they will display them in a crossed fashion like this, to signify that due to a caution or due to an incident that has occurred, the flag along with the checkered means that the race will come to an end as of this flag. So it doesn't happen very often, but say you're already halfway through a race, there's been major progression through the race, and an incident happens, there's an injury on the water, or like I said, a very pivotal directional buoy loses its rigging and is now floating away. We're forced to make a call in that situation to stop the race. And really, it's up to the discretion of the race director if they would like to resume the racing from there, or if, like I said, it's going to come to an end, and you'll be scored how you stand at the end of the last completed lap. It's not a very common situation, but it does happen. So let's get into our next flag here, and this is going to be our blue flag. So So blue. The blue flag here is meant to indicate that you are being lapped by the leader of the race. So to put it as a friend likes to say it, if you're getting a blue flag, move out of the way because you're not in the race anymore. So if you're being lapped with if you're getting a blue flag thrown at you, it's a signal to know that the leader is coming up on you. You need to safely give the leader room to make his pass around you, but you don't have to stop racing or going, but you want to be sure you slow down a little bit, give a little more room if you're on a turn or whatever, let the leader get past you so that everybody can go back about their racing safely. There's no chance of injury or anything like that. Alternatively, course marshals themselves don't carry a blue flag. So in a situation like this, if a course marshal can see that a racer is going to be lapped and it's going to happen before they get to the tower, they can't throw a blue flag. As an alternative being is a course marshal will come up to you in the race as you're passing them, get your attention, pointing at you and blowing their whistle, and they generally tap their head a couple times, point at you and whistle, and that's an indication that you are being lapped. So that's the best that us course marshals on the water can do to give you notification that this flag is being pointed at you. All right. Now we're going to get into the flag that no racer ever wants to see on the water, and that is this one. This is the black flag. This is the flag that nobody wants to see when they're on the water. If you are getting this, there could be several reasons as to why you've received this flag. Primarily, it usually happens to racers that are severely messing up the course. You've been given several opportunities to correct yourself, guidance on how to properly navigate the course, and you're just not getting it right, and it's causing issues that could be dangerous to yourself, the other racers, or the marshals on the water. So we have to get you off the water, and this is how we need to do it. So if you're black flagged for a situation like that, don't be discouraged. There's chances are you're a new racer, you're really not sure of the course, you're still uncertain. Don't be discouraged if you get black flagged. Just know that we need to go over things with you. We need to discuss the course with you to make sure that you can get it figured out. Another big reason this flag will come out is because you are intentionally and maliciously hitting another racer. You're bumping too much. You're trying to force them into situations that could be dangerous to get yourself ahead, and that kind of stuff isn't really condoned in the racing series. So be careful of that, or you also get another black flag here. Now, a lot of promoters will give you indication when you are halfway through the lap, or not the lap, I'm sorry, halfway through the race. And that is generally, this is the only time this combination will come out, which will be a white flag and a checkered flag in cross fashion. And the flagger will generally throw this out when you're halfway through your race. So if you're in a 10-lap race and the flagger's throwing this out, just know that you're starting your 6th lap. You are now officially halfway through the race, and that's what this means. Okay, so the white flag on its own, that's obvious. It's the same in all racing, and that is, it's the last lap. You have one lap to cover as much ground as you can, try to make the moves possible to get ahead of somebody, or do whatever you need to. But it's the last lap of the race. And then immediately following this, after you've completed one more lap, you will get your checkered flag. And that's going to be the end of the race right there. So that covers all your flags right there. What the course marshals have, or ways that they use to signal you to the effect of the flag. And then now that we're covered there, we'll get into race morning and how everything goes in the morning leading up to starts. So now it's race morning. You're probably going to want to be up early and get your skis to the beach early, because most of the time race directors, they will want to get the riders meeting kicking off at generally around 8 o'clock in the morning. You know, the sooner we can get into the racing, the sooner we can get the day done, so everybody can enjoy themselves in the pits, or if they like to go out, or whatever they like to do. So let's get into it here. It's race day. Generally Saturday, maybe Friday. Riders meeting is 8 a.m. So bright and early, you're going to want to be up, get yourself ready, energize, work out, whatever you need to do. Get your ski down to the beach, because you really want to be ready. You don't want to wait until the last minute. It kind of gets old. You know, we're trying to get the day going. You guys want to get the day going. You want to race. I want to watch you race. It's all fun. So 8 o'clock in the morning, riders meeting. Now, the riders meeting is at the discretion of your race director. So it could be 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock when the meeting actually happens. I'm just giving you a general basis for what most promoters do, and they like to start early. So 8 a.m., riders meeting. Riders meeting will generally take anywhere from a half hour to an hour, if not longer, depending on who your director is, what they need to cover, if there's any extra stuff that needs to be prepared. Now, after that, really depends on who's all there. Some groups, they'll want to do a prayer and a devotional real quick. So, you know, we'll give them however long to do their thing. And then from there, we get into practice. And so now it's probably about 9 a.m. We're calling for practices. So at this time, everybody should have their boats down to the beach, ready to go. They don't need to be in the water, but they need to be there and ready to go. We prefer to have the racers all in their suits, equipment ready to go. We don't want to have to be waiting for anybody. So keep in mind of the schedule, because we'd like to adhere to it and keep things moving in a positive fashion. So now we're going to get into practice. Most promoters will generally try to maintain the same kind of practice and base schedule throughout the entire season. So all your classes are generally going to practice in the same order, as well as race in the same order. So now practices. When it comes to practice, what happens in practices is we'll get, so we're dealing with beginners here. We're going to want to get all of our beginners, be it a ski class or runabout on the water, and a course marshal will typically escort whoever's in the practice through the course, so they can understand the course layout, all the dynamics, how the buoys are laid out. And then from there, the course marshal will release you. And in a beginner's case, it really depends on your marshal or your director, but I like to try to give my beginners at least 5 laps on it so they can understand, because in 90% of your courses, you have a split. So you need to be able to know how to differentiate the two and how to navigate the course. So I like to put a big emphasis on the course, which in our next lesson here, it's going to be course comprehension. It's going to be our biggest video and longest video there will be, because there is a lot to go over when it comes to a course. So practices, well, I think we generally do probably like 10 practices total for all your different classes, your skill levels, and last chances. Then after that, there will be a short break, not generally long, usually about a half hour, while we wait for our whatever staff to be finalized. We always got to make sure our paramedics are on site and the staff is ready to go. And then, well, we're going to want to get into racing. So now we're getting into our staging portion. Now, let's look back on the schedule that I was telling you that your promoter is going to have published. The schedule is going to tell you the order in which all of your races are happening on a day-to-day basis. And this is important for you because when it comes to staging, we like to run a tight ship and we want to keep the flow of everything going. So it's the first race of the day. They're the first one on the line. There's nobody on the water. This race starts going. Okay, so we're in staging right now. When the race starts, the next race should be out warming the boats up and then getting their boat ready to go. They got all their gear on, and then by the time the race that is in progress is halfway through, those boats that were warming up should be on the line and prepared, because it will literally only be but a few minutes until their race is going to begin. And we'd like to have everybody there and checked in, because in the very first race, you generally draw lots for your race order, who's going to sit on what gate to the inside, outside, and what all your positions and everything. So keep that in mind. You want to be on the line, ready to go for your race, halfway through the race that is in progress ahead of you. And that'll just help keep everything smooth, because as soon as this race is done, they'll go past the starting gate down to tech, and while they're all occupied in tech, that gives us our opportunity to get you started without any interference from anybody. So we want to keep everything fluid. Just be ready to go. Keep an ear out for the announcers, because they're always calling for the classes. They're trying to get everybody help lined up ahead of time so you're ready to race, and we're ready to get you racing right away. So we covered our racers meeting. We got our staging here ready. Now let's talk about some starts. All right. So like I said earlier, there's two different types of starts. There is a band start and a green flag start. Now, not many promoters really use the green flag start. Most of them use a band start, but again, it's all to the discretion of your promoter and your race director. So we'll pull up for some footage of a start here for you so that we can give you a little bit of a play-by-play here on what's going on. All right. So this here is what your average starter will look like. So your flagger will give you a signal to start your engine. Now, with pretty much all skis and any kind of two-stroke runabout, you'll generally, as you see here, they'll lift the pumps out of the water and empty the pump. They'll blow it out so they can get maximum velocity and all that stuff on the takeoff. Now, What you don't see here, and it's a little hard, it's not very good footage, but after the tower signals the racers to start their engines, he'll give them a moment to clear their pumps out. And then now what'll happen is the flagger will look down the line and he will point down the line to each individual racer to get a visual cue from them to signify that they are ready to race, which is generally a nod. So in the case scenario when your flagger is getting everybody ready to go, he'll point down the line and want to get a visual cue from everybody, a nod, be it from you, the racer, yourself, or your holder. And that'll give him the cue that everybody's ready. Now, it's a little hard to see in this video here, but the flagger, you could just see him off to the left corner of that video that he's holding a card that's got a 2 on it. Now, that is the signal for starting your engine. And then after he gets the confirmation from everybody, this is when the real nitty-gritty gets to it. So this is where everybody's on hardwired, ready to go. Now, we were talking about starts. This is what's known as the band start. Now, as you can see out in front of the racers, there's that lime green band. Now, that's the starting band. There's a gentleman in the wire that controls when that band goes. So, when the tower, the flagger in the tower goes from 2 to 1, that means that they are within 3 seconds of starting that race. Now, at that point, your flagger will generally kick the sign to the side on the 1, and that'll be the indication to the gentleman operating the band to release it for the race to start. Now, keep in mind, this is band start racing. Now, when the flagger is putting them cards up, he's only dictating what whoever's operating the band release needs to do. So on a band start, you gotta watch that band when you start, or you can end up in a situation where you went too soon. You went on when the flagger, turned his card instead of when the band snapped. So you hit the throttle and you're under the band before it snaps, and now you have a jump start. So this is band starts. It's very important that you need to watch the band after you give the flagger your cue that you are ready to race. Give him your cue, put your eyes on the band, and as soon as that band disappears from in front of you, snap that throttle and go. So, and jump starts, and that's the thing. You want to watch the flagger, you end up with a jump start, and that's when we throw the red flag at you. And if you get a jump start, well, then you're penalized, because clearly you were trying to get ahead on the race. It didn't work out. You got caught. So now you start with a dead engine. And in most case scenarios, a dead engine is you have to pull your lanyard unattached from the ski, hold it in your throttle hand, and put it on your head. I mean, now when the band snaps, everybody's going the minute it snaps and not you. You have to, it's a penalty. So we're going to get deeper into that kind of stuff into our next video. So this is a starting for you. It's very quick, and it goes quite like that. All right, so now we've covered everything that you need to know coming up to the very start of the race. So that's going to cover it for us today here. I'd really appreciate it if y'all would like the channel, subscribe, maybe get notifications, you know, and share it. By all means, please spread the word around, because there's always new racers looking to come into racing, and I just want to give them everything they need to know before they get there. So, really appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And in our next video, we're going to get into the course and see what racing's all about. Take care, everybody.